to History Inside a Nutshell, the show where we sail into our port of call discussing maritime history.
SS General von Steuben. We all know the history of the competition of who could build the best vessels between Britain and Germany, but this event occurred in the first decade of the 20th century. What happened was, after the First World War, the competition had cooled down, but the heat of the war, with one government party attempting to avenge countries for putting Germany in financial ruin. Germany still had a mighty fleet when the Nazi Party came into power, but it wasn't as strong as before. There have been vessels that have done their duties to the country, but one ship that joined the war effort was the SS General von Steuben. SS General von Steuben had a mysterious history, but her time in service is fascinating just as much as other naval force ships during the war. So what's her story? SS General von Steuben was commanded under a different name, Munich. When she was built, the ship was a modern ocean liner for the first time. She weighed 38,500 tons, with an over 168-meter long hull and a nearly 20-meter wide deck. No recorded information is in existence about the construction of her, but she may have been built at the Bremer Vulcan shipyard in Bremen. There was no additional information on her launch, but the ship had been built in 1923, and she made her maiden voyage the same year. She became the first German transatlantic passenger liner to be launched within the company's 66-year history. The company hadn't built a vessel since 1914 due to the First World War, which economically devastated Germany. Following the end of the First World War, many European countries attended the Palace of Versailles, where they ended up signing the Treaty of Versailles. Due to the treaty, Germany had to pay incredibly sizable reparations to France and Great Britain, almost putting Germany in debt. Despite this, the country's shipping companies managed to save money to build or continue to construct new ships. When ships returned to transatlantic shipping lanes, the München became one of the first ships to travel on the Hamburg to New York line. She successfully made her maiden voyage, arriving in New York Harbor in July of 1923. On February 11, 1930, in New York Harbor, a disaster occurred when a fire broke out in a paint locker. The inferno quickly spread to the other ship hold, resulting in a 5-alarm fire. The city's firemen were called onto the scene while passengers and crew discharged hastily. Unfortunately, the fire was out of control, and from where she had docked, she sank. Following her sinking, the München was salvaged from the wharf before she was towed to a dry dock. She was repaired and returned to service before being renamed the SS General von Steuben, or Steuben for short, in honor of General von Steuben. For 9 years, the Steuben continued her transatlantic voyage until the outbreak of the Second World War in September 1939. When the Second World War broke out, Germany, under the control of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, invaded Poland. Because of this invasion, the Nazis managed to control many towns, cities, and ports, including the Baltic Sea, which today is known as the Polish city and port of Gdynia. While invading countries was easy, building a new naval fleet of ships was hard. Under orders from Hitler, yards had a problem with producing ships. By the outbreak, the Kriegsmarine, which stands for Navy in German, had only 2 battleships, 2 battle cruisers, 3 armored cruisers, 3 heavy cruisers, 6 light cruisers, 22 destroyers, and 59 submarines. Out of the 97 naval ships, the Steuben had been commissioned as a Kriegsmarine accommodation ship. As well as invading more countries like Denmark and France, Germany also invaded Russia. In 1943, the Russians pushed back against the Germans, which began Germany's downfall. By early January 1945, it was clear that Germany was losing the war. While Germany was losing the war, the Steuben had already been requisitioned into an armed transport ship, taking troops to the eastern Baltic ports and returning wounded troops to Kiel. In an attempt to save his submarines, on January 23rd, the Grand Admiral of Germany, Karl Dönitz, radioed a coded message to the port to evacuate troops to the west. Along with ships like the Steuben, Deutschland, and Hamburg, and submarines, over 2 million people evacuated from East Prussia and Poland. Also, thousands had fled from Russia, hoping to board any ship that was able to carry troops and the injured to western Germany. On February 10th, the Steuben was sailing from Pillow near Königsberg for another port when she sank after being fired by a Russian submarine in the Baltic Sea. While the Steuben was sailing to a destination, the Soviet submarine S-13 fired 2 torpedoes before midnight on the 9th. 14 seconds apart from each other, the torpedoes from the S-13 hit Steuben's starboard side below the bridge behind the bow. The impact killed many of the ship's crew who were sleeping there. It took 20 minutes for the ship to sink, the same amount of time it took for the Lusitania after being hit by a German torpedo in 1915. Like the Lusitania, the Steuben sank by the bow and listed severely to the starboard side before making her final plunge. While she was sinking, a torpedo boat called the T-196 took immediate action and pulled up both sides of the Steuben. The T-196 managed to rescue 300 survivors from the Steuben's slanting decks before bringing them to Coburg, Poland. It was reported that 4,500 people perished in the sinking, including wounded soldiers, doctors, nurses, and auxiliaries. Only 650 people survived. The wreck of the Steuben had laid on the seafloor for 59 years, until identified by the Polish Navy's ship ORP Oktowski in 2004. Upon her discovery, she was found underneath 230 feet of water, lying on her port side intact. In July 2021, a German news magazine reported the wreck plundered and the wreck was severely damaged. The cause of the deterioration was eluding because divers took artifacts without permission from the Polish government. However, despite international treaties, the wreck remains the property of the German state. What will happen to the wreck in the future? Only time will tell. The SS General von Steuben may have had more secrets to tell, but judging by the condition of the wreck underneath the water, these secrets may fade away and be lost to history.
I would like to thank Treebark Productions for narrating this week's video. Treebark Productions is a Kobe-focused stop-motion channel, uploading short videos on building aircraft and ships and reenacting historical events like the sinking of the Yamato and the collision of the RMS Olympic and the HMS Hawk. If you like stop-motion videos and if you are passionate about history, subscribe to Treebark Productions for future videos. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please subscribe for more historical content. Until next time, this has been History Inside a Nutshell, departing from the docks. Thank you so much for all of your support and enjoy the rest of your voyage.